Boys ready?
Yeah.
You ready, Nate?
Yeah.
Episode 133, the band is back. We say that every week, but I actually think that this is kind of return to form. So this is not an interview, no special guest. The core three, I was gonna say the four horsemen. The three horsemen are back. It's Anthony and Nate. We got Tony. What's up, boys?
We're playing a club show. We're fucking hanging out. Old school, like you said, getting the band back together, and we're just gonna kick it, us three. No special guests. We started this for us three, right? At the end of the day, like
we did. That's true. Yeah. No, we're back. We're back. Just the three of us. And full disclosure, we're trying to remember the last time the three of us recorded just the three of us, and we think it was when Nate was in Maine in like middle of July. So we're talking 2 months. It's been about 2 months since that happened. A little over.
Yeah, OG content. It's a J. Cole record. No features. Just,
Are we gonna go number one though? I mean,
well, although J. Cole said he didn't have any features, but then he featured his like alter ego. So we're gonna have NPR Nate might make an appearance.
Yeah, he definitely might make an appearance. I love it.
Industry Nate might appear.
Oh, he's already here. He's already here.
Trade Spend is in the house. Actually, you mentioned Trade Spend in that last episode with Rob.
That's true. Yeah, it comes out. Yeah, multiple personalities.
He can't help himself.
Tyler Durden might show up. Who knows?
Yeah, he can't help himself. That's just Nate. That's why we love Nate. But no, it's exciting to be back doing this, the three of us, because it really does feel like it's been a long time. I mean, again, full disclosure, we put all the Tattoo the Earth stuff together, and then we had some stuff banked so we could take a little break after that, because I think all three of us were a little fried because it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Between, normal life, and that was just such an enormous project. I think more than we anticipated. So between logistics and flying and not really knowing what the plan was, although we kind of have a pretty good system internally, but a lot of those interviews were on the fly, right? So we didn't know. We were just like, oh, okay, let's go to our fucking setup up in the seats.
And like we've mentioned this on the podcast, we do prepare for those interviews. So there'd be times where we had our questions ready, but wouldn't record for another couple weeks, or just trying to pin down times. Everyone has a life. Some of these bands are on tour, and a lot of work. I'm glad we did it. Great experience. Fuck, we chatted with LeJohn. We chatted with fucking Hatebreed, Terror. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah,
lots of really cool conversations back there. So go check those out. If you're here because of Tattoo the Earth, we appreciate that too. So thanks for sticking around with us and listening to us nerd out about music, because that's what we like to do on a weekly basis, and we don't really feel like slowing down on that. So here we are again.
I'm going to do a shout out. I'm shouting out Spose, three-time former guest. He basically live tweeted the last fucking episode 132, the Perfect Songs 2. I do got some beef with him though. He was very stern that Eagle Eye Cherry's Save Tonight was not a perfect song, which I obviously disagree.
No, it was awesome to have him live tweet our episode. That's happened twice, and he's been involved both times, which is pretty cool. The episodes we had him on, the Kanye Countdown, somebody else was live tweeting the listen, which was really cool. Yeah, and then Spose himself was live tweeting the listen. So yeah, I disagree too. I think it's a perfect song. I'm with you, Twan.
So wait, I have something to say here. If he's the artist and he's saying it's not a perfect song, and we're just fucking fans, we're like, yeah, this is a perfect song, perfect song structure. and he's the artist, like, who's got more grounds? I want to say us, because we're fans and we're almost removed from the process, so we can kind of say organically, like, yeah, dude, food analogy, this shit tastes great.
But I mean, he's a nerd too, right? He's a nerd too. Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're an artist, you're coming at it from maybe a time signature perspective, chord progression, harmonies, melodies. I mean, I think we can recognize that, but I think when you play an instrument, you'll notice a little, like Greg Bergdorf, knowing there's stage magic going on and all this stuff. It's like, it's stuff that we don't pick up unless someone else points it out, and then we know it.
True. And I noticed that stuff more at shows now ever since he told us about it.
And we critique podcasts, right? It's like, oh, dude, like, I don't know. It's not a perfect podcast, for whatever reason.
Neither are we, though, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
And the other thing there is, you're right. When you put your editing ears on, which happens a lot for us.
For you, especially, yeah.
Yeah, well, Twan too. And I mean, Nate, you listen to it for QC as well, but like, when you put those ears on and then you listen to other podcasts, sometimes they're really huge podcasts, say maybe Bill Simmons or Joe Rogan, and you're like, man, I would have cut that, or I would have cleaned that up here. And that's ruined podcasts for me too.
what was that Netflix movie? It was like Don't Look Up or Don't Look Down. What
Yeah,
was
Don't Look Up. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a scene in that movie where there's like the camera crew in the background. So if you're a film nerd, you're like, how the fuck did you miss that? So it's the same thing with podcasts. Like, I can hear your chair squeaking the whole time, and sometimes you can't do anything about it, but it does.
Sorry.
For the trained ear, it's like, if I'm listening to other podcasts, I'm like, how do you miss that?
Totally. Yeah. It reminds me, I didn't even watch. Are you guys Game of Thrones fans?
Oh, yeah. The Starbucks cup?
Yeah, the Starbucks cup. I saw that not even knowing about the show and thinking, like, how the fuck did that make Final Cut? That's insanity. So, yeah.
Just another reason the last season was not very good.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Bucks was S Bucks was around back then. We don't even know it.
Yeah, right. Oh man, Westeros has a Starbucks in every corner. Right across the street from them, another Starbucks. You guys ever heard that Lewis Black
Yeah.
comedy piece? Yeah. All right, Twan. So what are we doing tonight? What do you got for us? You had some special things that you were gonna throw at Nate and I that we don't even know yet.
To keep me on the edge of my seat, which I love.
I mean, maybe I hyped it up a little too much. I mean, so we've done a lot of like set list stuff in the past, and kind of recently we've shied away from it, obviously because we've had guests, we had Tattoo the Earth, but also sometimes we record a week in advance, or a couple days, so we kind of shy away from it. But I saw one headline and then one just general thought of kind of summer festivals that I figured, hey, it checks the set list box and it checks the nerd box. So here we are. So the first one, you guys probably saw this, NoFX announcing that they're going to be done at the end of 2023.
Farewell, yeah.
40 years. Fat Mike and the rest of the gang going to call it quits. Going to play some final shows. Heck of a run. Whether you love them, hate them, you got to, real recognizes real. They've been at it for so long. So great. They're going to celebrate that. So where my head went is, all right, end of 2023. That's a year and a half out. It reminded me of the Derek Jeter dog and pony show of stretching this retirement out for so long. And then I'll just go stream of consciousness. And then I thought, hey, this gives everyone a chance to see them that wanted to see them one last time.
Yep.
So the question to you guys is, for a legacy band, and we'll say who's been a band for 30 years, is there a proper way to go out? Is there a right way? And should bands even announce they're done? And where I go with that is, in the hardcore scene, there's an ongoing joke of like people saying, there's no need to see the band's last show because they're going to do a reunion in 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So where are you guys at with it?
Gut reaction. No one's ever really done, right? Unless like people pass on or something happens in that ilk, but no one's ever really saying we're done here, unless you're Led Zeppelin. They did that one show at the O2 in 2008 maybe, and it wasn't even really the whole band because Bonham wasn't around. So you're right. There's always a check to be written to bring some people back for that. So, but I do like the idea of giving people a chance to go see them over the year and a half that they have here. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, are they really done? Like if 3 years goes by and they can play a couple one-offs, big festival type things, and they can make a couple bucks to bring the NoFX name back, will they do it? Maybe, if they need it.
Yeah, that fucking boggles my mind, because the first band that comes to mind is, or a few of them, Motley Crue being one, right? Kiss being another. Kiss is notorious because they did it twice, which is like double knife in the back. Like, dude, what the fuck? You're like your farewell tour, which was one of my first shows ever, was in 1998 Kiss farewell tour in Portland, Maine, at the Civic Center. And I was like, this is rad. First time and last time, all original lineup. And they're doing the End of the World tour now, which is essentially their third farewell tour. So this is just getting out of control. My stance on it is basically, if you're doing a proper farewell tour and it has some correlation to some kind of medical issue, for instance, Rush called it quits because Neil Peart was having some medical issues. So they did a farewell Rush's 40 tour, and the last date in Los Angeles was the proper last date, and then he passed away like 2-3 years later. So I think they made the plans to align with, all right, let's do this for our fellow bandmate, and we've had a great run. Whereas NoFX or an extreme point like Kiss, what really is it? I think Kiss is moving units and just getting people hyped up. The fact they've done it 3 times is disheartening. someone like NoFX, there's got to, I want to think that there's some reasoning behind it, whether it's other ventures or they know internally that they've run their course. They don't want to write the same material a 90th time or whatever. But I think there needs to be maybe some more transparency to the fans as to we're calling it quits for this reason. And we think that's respectable. Do you agree? And if so, this is our last run. So something that comes to mind would be like Elton John. He's on his farewell tour. It's also a 3-year tour. And it is the last time. Like, this is probably the last time. And if it isn't, that's sad. But if it is, he's pretty old and he has a pretty strong legacy. And if he's going to call it a day properly, then good on him, right? You know, anyone that hasn't seen him, go check him out. I've seen him a few times. He's amazing. And this is your chance. And if you don't do it, then, you know, forever hold your peace. So it's a little spread out. It's kind of a long form answer, but I guess it depends on the artist.
It's definitely a long form answer.
Very long form. Depends on the artist, and it depends on the kind of ethos behind that decision. Is it a cash grab, or is it proper, like, dude, we're calling it quits for medical reasons, or because I want to become a professor now, and being a touring punk band is going to take away from me hitting that goal. So therefore, this is where it comes to a close.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the reason why for these guys, I think Fat Mike's 55. So at that point, you know, how long do you want to keep doing it? But I can't help but think that, you know, they're probably going to be the band who cried retirement. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
At what point,
one of many though, right?
Right. And that's why it's like, how do you you fade off, or, you know, I don't know what the answer is. And it just got me thinking, even with this podcast, if we thought we were done, would we announce it, or would we just release an episode every month? You know, I don't know the answer, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And like thinking of it from 20,000 feet, as opposed to, you know, the couple of instances of bands we've discussed, I'm not sure what the answer is. I guess it depends on the band, right? And it depends on what's going on with the band behind the scenes that maybe we don't get. And some of that comes to Nate saying getting a little more transparency would be cool. I think for the most part with social media and all that stuff, we still get transparency from a lot of bands way more today than we used to get, say, 25 years ago. But there's still some areas where we're just not allowed in, and we probably shouldn't be too. So I'm okay with that. But I don't know. It depends on the band. I think if there's something going on behind the scenes, whether they can't work together anymore or there's health issues and you've been around for 40 years, like, touring isn't for the faint of heart, man. That's hard. We did one date in Worcester in August, and I was exhausted. We took a month off, essentially. Right?
And our equipment was basically 1 pound Zoom H6.
Right. We weren't lugging, amps and guitars and drum kits in, right?
Kind of riffing off of your part 2 of the question is basically, would you announce it? I think that's a two-way street in terms of house band Rage Against the Machine. Did they know their last show was their last show, or did Zach literally say, fuck it, I'm out? And the band is like, I guess that's our farewell show. We're not going to go on without him. We're going to start a new band, So there's a difference between breaking up and a proper farewell tour, or like retirement, or band calling it quits. And I think a lot of it has to do a little bit more contractual type variable, where it's, hey, we have to come to a group consensus and say that we're retiring for rev share, whatever it is. Like, we need to make sure that we're not calling it quits and all of a sudden you guys hire a new gun and continue the legacy, and then I'm cut out of this thing that I've built from high school, on. NoFX being kind of the example in that regard. So I think it's deeper than we think. It's making a statement as a proper disclosure to both internal, external, and any legalities contractually, like, hey, we're retiring, right? As a group, we're going to make this press statement. No one in this band is going to continue with this banner, this brand name. We've all decided that. And so we are officially not even on an indefinite hiatus. Like, the band is officially done.
Yeah. And I don't think the band has put out a statement. I don't even know what the medium was, but Fat Mike had made it had come up. Maybe, I don't know, he has a podcast, so maybe it was on his podcast. But yeah, I thought that'd be a fun thing to riff on, because, yeah, like you said, I don't think there is a one size fits all. I think it's situation dynamic and all that.
Well, and family life too, right? There's all kinds of different things that can happen that can derail if you get 3, 4, 5 people involved in something. Well,
actually, so that got my wheels spinning way too much.
Oh boy, yep, they are. They're spinning really hard right now. I hear them.
I'm
I'm leaving that in.
All right, next one. This, again, we can just spend a couple minutes on this one. So summer's obviously festival season. So you've seen all the flyers for the festivals: Louder Than Life, Furnace Fest, Sound and Fury, Blue Ridge Rock Fest. We did Tattoo the Earth, you name it. So it got me thinking, and I'm going to use Blue Ridge Rock Fest in Virginia as the example. September 8th through the 11th. So it happened, a couple weeks ago at this point. Rock, metalcore, hip hop, it had wings. It spread out genre-wise. Over 180 bands across 4 days. So we're talking 45 bands on average per day across multiple stages, overlapping set times. So I remember just late night, I'm scrolling through and I saw that and I'm like, put on my promoter, economics, businessman hat. And I couldn't help but think, at what point is it diminishing returns? Like, at what point is it too many bands? So I took like one day, and I couldn't help but think that there's a smaller combination of those same bands playing that day that would yield the same amount of attendees. So there's either a promoter accepting that, or it's likely pay to play. And I think just a general thought with this, I think it's a good thing for bands to get put on. Like, that's how you get exposure, however it is. So this is not a knock on Blue Ridge, because we heard it with Ozfest, this pay to play, all that stuff, but it just got my wheels thinking, like, at what point is it too many? Are they just trying to fill the stages? Because there were more stages. Like,
how many stages were there?
Geez, I think I want to say 4.
It would have to be like, okay, so my head goes to, we've got 4 stages, we've got 45 bands, that's what, 10, 11 bands per stage roughly. How, as a ticket buyer, are you like divvying up your time, especially if you're buying the ticket and you don't know how the stages are going to be like sitting, and you don't know when bands are going to go on? Like, man, that just is daunting. It's too much. And I love music. It's too much.
Yeah, I think it, coming from a music festival former life veteran, I think it depends on the festival. So like a multi-day camping festival that's in a remote area that's conducive to multiple stages, but in a setup that doesn't allow overlap in terms of, you're hearing someone else's set while you're watching said set, is viable. Because it's like, for instance, Bonnaroo, like there's multiple stages, many stages, and there's many bands. It's packed to the brim, but it's so spread out and the genres are so all over the place that if you just want to check out jam bands, there actually is no overlap, which is kind of nice.
That is great. And that's why I like Tattoo the Earth. There was 12 bands one day, and they could do it. One day, 12 bands, no overlap. Stages were within walking distance. And I think you're kind of getting into this, but I'm putting my promoter hat on, and it's like, at what number do I draw the line? You know what I mean? And at what point, because if it's pay to play, then fucking pack them in. Throw a 5th stage in there,
Yeah, you're thinking customer experience, but also promoter experience. Like,
I'm thinking from a promoter's promotion lens.
Give me 60 of them. Give me 100 of them. Like, who cares? Especially if they're paying.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I can't help but think, like, a festival like that, just using that as an example, it kind of has to be pay to play, right? Because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Yeah.
No, totally. I'm coming at it from the fan aspect, and I'm thinking to myself, how do I even divvy up my time here? And as someone who maybe wants to just go see the jam aspect of a festival, or the metalcore aspect of a festival, cool. But like the 3 of us, we want to get to everything, right? So having that many, that's tough. And that's why, I'm saying to myself, less is more. But at the same time, you're promoting it and you're wearing your promoter hat and you're saying that these bands are going to give me this much money to get 25 minutes at, Furnace Fest or whatever it is, Blue Ridge Rock, then let's get them in here. Let's pack the people in, make that ticket even higher. Hey, we got 150 bands over whatever many days. Your ticket's going to cost $450 for the weekend. People pay it.
And we did the festival episode. Like, I looked at, for the hell of it, I'm a nerd, I looked at set times for Furnace Fest, which is happening when this drops, it will have just happened, and then Riot Fest in Chicago, right? And I was like, damn, I would have to make tough decisions. I'd have to miss this band, miss that band. So from a user experience perspective, it's too many.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking too many. And I just watched that tangent. Just watch that Woodstock doc.
Yep.
User experience sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll save that. We'll save that. We're going off the rails here. Train wreck, right? That was the name of it.
Yeah, and Nate can attest. He was there.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah. Missing Alanis Morissette to see Korn type thing. It is what it is. Thinking of it as the band or the talent standpoint also is just something to think about, is the fact that you're really kind of getting screwed. If you're paying to play and you're playing against let's say 2 other bands on 2 different stages, and you're expecting to get maximum exposure, but you're also getting a fraction of what you would have gotten in a normal headline show because of this, overlap, you're really kind of getting ripped off. And even so, at that point, everyone's getting ripped off except for the actual said promoter. Right?
Yeah, and they don't care.
They don't care. Yeah.
Well, the other thing there too, it's like anything right now. Everybody has a voice, but there's so many voices. How do you differentiate your voice? I mean, we deal with that in the podcast world, and bands have been dealing with that forever. And there were a certain handful of people that would pull them out of obscurity and put them on the radio or whatever. But now it's, here's however much money so I can play this festival so that somebody will see me. And you're hoping you get 18 new fans or 25 new fans, and they tell 25 friends, and it's the same as social media. It's the same as, putting your shit out on Facebook and hoping people click on it and listen to it and like it, right?
Well, it reminds me of, like, if I'm a promoter and I have a sell sheet, it's like, you can put yourself in front of 80,000 fans, but it's like,
not really.
Well, no, there's 5 stages. It's like I'm leasing a building and it's like, well, the foot traffic's this. It's like, yeah, that might be that, but everyone has their fucking head in their phone. They're not looking up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Man, that's a good one. That's a good question. And it's, go back and listen to our festival episode. We talk about festivals, and we're largely in favor of them, I think.
Yes,
but
I love them.
At the same time, because it is bang for your buck, especially if, it's three stages and they're within walking distance of each other, it's a different story. But if it's all over like a massive compound and you've got to get the metalcore stages over there and the 3 miles that way is where the, the jam band stages, and you want to see both bands or 2 sets of bands, that becomes difficult.
You actually get into a mode of planning your day, not spontaneously at all. Like, you're planning it, days in advance. Like, oh, well, I'm going to sacrifice seeing that band because they're playing this one's playing instead. Or I'm going to go full on indie with this festival and not even see bands I've seen, because I've seen them so many times that I'm actually going to focus on artists that I've never even heard of and get my money's worth that way, right? Just kind of go bulk. And I'll check this guy on their headline tour, or he or she or whatever. But great question. Yeah.
That was the fun with Warped Tour growing up, is you would plan your, they'd post the set times and you'd plan your day. I remember printing them out and highlighting who I wanted to see, not knowing how close the stages were, because that could be a 1/4-mile hike. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Cool. All right. So, I mean, sticking with the live music theme, let's talk what we've seen this summer, right? We haven't really done an old school, what have you guys been checking out? What have you guys been seeing live? What music are you listening to type episode in quite some time. So we're back to do that right now.
Yeah. And we saw, I mean, speaking for myself, I saw in the last few months, maybe 6, 7, 8 shows, which is, for me at this age, a lot. Like, I doubled down this summer, and I'm glad I did, because it kind of rejuvenated, maybe it's a bad thing. It rejuvenated my love for live music.
Yeah.
Bad for my wallet, because some of these prices that I've been looking at for shows coming up, I'm like, when did I get priced out of a 311 show? Like, what the fuck?
Come on, Peanut, you've been on the podcast.
Right.
All right, who's starting us off? Who's fucking opening side one?
Let's start with June, right? Because we're going to do this kind of a summer recap. So let's start with June. One of you guys have a June show that you went to that we didn't already talk about?
I got one. I'll jump in. Sticks and Stones Fest, Outdoors Palladium. It was Newfound Glory's headlining festival. You got Newfound Glory, 4 Year Strong, Piebald, The Movie Life, A Loss for Words, Be Well. So you got a couple of Podioslave alums. You got Vinnie Caruana, Movie Life. You got Matty Arsenal, Loss for Words. And that was awesome. That was one that there was 2 stages, maybe 9 bands. There was some overlap, which was interesting, but I think there were like 6,000 people in attendance. It's my first time going to an outdoor Palladium show, and bands we all grew up on. It was besides Be Well, I mean, all those bands have been around for 15 plus years, and I loved it. Glad I made the trek down. it was what, June 4th?
Yeah, early June.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a show that I had serious FOMO on because I think I had to work that Saturday. But you were sending us photos and videos and scoping it out because we were going to be down there a couple months later. And it was just like, damn, this is awesome. I'm excited. Like, I'm excited to go check this place out. I'm excited that Twan's there and he's seeing Newfound Glory. And you know, Maddie was there, which we've talked to Maddie a couple times on the podcast from Lost for Words and Now the World. And Vinny, obviously Vinny was an awesome episode. I mean, he's like a top 3 episode for us, top 4 episode for us, as far as people listening to it. So really cool to be able to bang out all those bands in one day at a cool venue like that.
Yeah, and also kind of a regional claim to fame because something like that only occurs in basically Southern California and the Northeast for whatever reason. I guess it's a rabid fan base, but also respective genres that are, you know, heavy in that area. So New England and Southern California. Who'd we have on that kind of validated that those two geographics are heavy hitters for that kind of thing?
It was Brandon Chapati.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so he kind of highlighted that. So that festival didn't exist anywhere else.
It had Warped Tour vibes, the whole thing, which was throwback because I haven't been to Warped Tour in 15 years anyway. And it was awesome. Good vibes all around. And you're right, Nate, that was the only festival they did on that tour because the tour was Newfound Glory, 4 Year Strong, and Be Well. So they turned it kind of like Tattoo the Earth. They turned that outdoor venue into a festival, it's awesome. I'm in.
I hope they do more of that in Worcester at the Palladium because it's a good spot for it. And you know, we've been there a couple times now, so maybe we can be embedded a little bit, you know.
What do you guys see?
Yeah, Nate, you got a June show?
June show. I can't remember if we talked about it on here. So this was the first show that I checked out with my newborn because I made a promise to myself, and I don't know how I convinced my wife to agree with me. Like, hey, like this kid's, I'm not gonna not go to shows. In fact, I want to go to shows and bring my son as soon as possible. So this was his first show. Had his headphones on for the noise cancellation and whatnot. Could still hear the music, but it's not, you know, he's not gonna have damage like I have. So
wait, what? What?
What? Say what?
The Hollywood Bowl, right?
No, this was June 3rd, Amos Lee at Humphreys by the Bay.
Oh, nice.
Little outdoor show on the water. So yeah, the outdoor show is a big proponent on even making it happen because you got to think, even like early June, we were still kind of figuring out the COVID pandemic situation. So it was like outdoor shows are bust, especially with an infant. So yeah, I don't know if you guys know Amos Lee, but great artist, kind of jazzy, soulful music. I've always loved him. I think he's great. So the fact that he was coming by, I was like, all right, here, you know, this is the one. Let's fucking do it. Great show on the water. I love Humphreys by the Bay. Anyone that's visited San Diego, one of my favorite places. It's outside, beautiful, beautiful spot. So yeah, special because it was the first show of the summer for me and to bring to my son and kind of, I don't know, get him into this new legacy.
He's a nerd.
Yeah.
There is something about an outdoor show. You said it's on the water?
Yeah, outdoor shows on the water are like,
yeah, I mean,
amazing.
The Hatch Shell in Boston, you get, not that the Charles River is anything special, but like I like that because the water's right there. Thompson's Point, we've talked about a million times.
Yep.
Maine State Pier was good for that too, you know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Fall River. That's a local. That's the river I grew up on, boys and girls. In South Portland and Portland, Maine. It was the bridge that I used to drive across every day to go to work or school. Right on the Fall River.
Fall River. $1 Million Bridge.
$1 Million Bridge guy. Yeah.
Saw it crumbling before my eyes and still drove over it.
My mom decided to go through once I was a kid. To go through the bridge is gonna go up soon. Like thing was coming down as she was like going through, and I think we got air.
Wow.
If you know what we're talking about, no, you don't know what we're talking about. Yeah. No fucking clue.
Yeah. If you've been to Portland, Maine, you've seen the big sprawling bridge that goes from Portland to South Portland. This was the old one that was much smaller and much ricketier.
So rickety. I mean, literally, it was crumbling. It was sketchy.
Yep.
Anyways,
tangent, yeah. Nate. This is for you and I only. This is for you and I only, and I don't care that anybody has to listen to it. But remember when they opened the new bridge, but it wasn't open yet? And they had that like carnival on the bridge.
Yeah, the walkthrough. I remember.
Yeah. Oh man, they had like bouncy houses, and I think we were in 8th grade. They had bouncy houses. They had like a petting zoo. This is all on this bridge that is now just it's a bridge. But at the time, the state of Maine was pretty proud that it got done. And they were like, let's have a party on it.
Well, I remember walking through it because it was like a little, like you said. And I remember like spitting. And I was like, I'm the first person to spit on the $1 million bridge.
That's something that, an 8th grade boy would do.
And be proud of. Yeah. And want everyone to know about it 30 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still talking about it. Big doings in South Portland, Maine, everybody.
Man.
Yeah, so that was Trey's first show.
Trey's first show, yeah. Kind of going mellow before we go into the Slipknots of the world.
Yeah, you'll take him to that down the road. Corey will be 70, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, nerd fact. You know the famous Amos cookies?
Mm-hmm.
That's Amos Lee.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Oh. I was like, what are you talking about? We both believed you.
No way. No, actually, the guy. This is a tangent. The guy that founded Famous Amos Cookies sold the brand name years ago, but then he just came back with a new cookie and pitched it on Shark Tank.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah,
legacy.
So there you go. Little history there for you cookie buffs.
The sidebar episode.
The cookie bar episode. All right, so I don't have one from June that we didn't already talk about on the pod, so I'm gonna jump to July if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah, fuck June.
For me anyway. I mean, you guys can give us another June one if you want, but
I'm cool with it. Confirmed.
I think I only saw one show in July, which is kind of wild to me. I saw Sheryl Crow at Thompson's Point,
mm-hmm.
which, I mean, where else but the Podioslave podcast are you going to get us talking about, metal, metalcore, folk, fucking pop punk, and now I'm talking about Sheryl Crow. That's what we do here, hip hop. That's what we do here. So she played Thompson's Point in the middle of July. I took my wife out for her birthday, and Rob, who we had on last week, he actually texted me way back in like March and was like, "Hey, you want to see Sheryl Crow at Thompson's Point in July?" And I was like, "I mean, yes." Well, why the fuck not?
I know.
So he bought tickets, and we rolled out. Perfect summer night in Maine at Thompson's Point, which we said is on the water there in Portland, Maine. And you don't realize how many hits someone as big as Sheryl Crow has until you see them live. And you're like, wow, you're leading with this song, you're playing this one, It just keeps going. As we were talking about the Goo Goo Dolls last week, it's the same idea. Like, there were just hit after hit after hit, and she could have done 25 songs that everybody knew. And it was damn good, and everybody was into it. Pretty close to sold out show at Thompson's Point, and that place has a cool energy when it's like that for a band or an act like that, where people are just happy and into the music, and nobody around you is bumping into you, and you're just having a good time. That's the type of night that I love there.
So people were not throwing mud at her like Woodstock 99?
No. No mud being thrown, and no one was asking her to take her shirt off, which is good. It was a good thing.
Yes, we've advanced as a society.
Is Sheryl Crow the Foo Fighters of female vocalists? Just hit after hit, and you didn't even know? Like, oh, God, everything you write is great. Didn't even know. I mean, I knew, but...
Yeah, I mean, maybe. She has just so many songs that you don't realize that you're aware of. Mm-hmm. And until she's playing them live for you, and you're like, like 40 years of being in the industry or whatever it is.
Well, the Foo Fighters analogy is multi-dimensional because it's like not only timeless songs, but like been there since we were fucking kids. Like soundtracks of movies like Twister with Winding Road to like present, she's always been in the background. Sheryl Crow is like a staple grocery store shopping with your mom in 5th grade name,
I would say underrated. You're right.
Yeah.
And I'd have to pull up her catalog, but I can probably think off the dome 5 big hits, but I'm sure if I listened to like her greatest hits, whatever, I'd probably know most, if not all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we take Sheryl Crow for granted? I think the answer is probably yes.
Yes.
And she's what, 60?
Pushing 60 if she's not 60. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll fact check for us right now, but she's right around there. And there was a documentary she was talking about, and played a couple new songs, and they were really good too. Like just all around, like uber talented.
She's a 90s OG.
Any opener with her? I don't think there needs to be, but was there?
I think there was, and we weren't there for it. She is 60, turned 60 this year.
Wow. Hey, a lot of musicians in her age range see him while you can, because I assume she still had it, one, and two, still performing at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, what do you guys got for July? You got a July show to throw at us here?
I saw one show, I think, in July. It was Third Eye Blind, Taking Back Sunday, and Hockey Dad, which I think is a bandicap. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw like half of their set, but you know, it's that whole baseball themed or sports themed. So like, who am I thinking of? Free Throw and modern baseball, Hockey Dad. It fits that, you know. But it was at Mohegan Sun Arena.
Soccer Mommy.
Soccer.
Real band name.
Soccer Mommy.
Real or fake?
And Hockey Dad co-headline
with Free Throw and Knuckle Puck.
It's funny, if I've done this before. If you go on Spotify and type in any one of those bands with the sports names, the recommended, if you like, it's a lot of other sports names.
Yep.
Yep. That's hilarious. Fastball.
Fastball. 90s OG.
Hey, that was a curveball, Nate. Good
curveball. Boy. Oh boy! All right, so you saw Free Throw or whoever with with Third Eye Blind and Taking Back Sunday, which is really what we want to talk about here.
Yeah, so it was at Mohegan Sun Arena, which I don't know if it should be called an arena. Like, I don't know what the cap is there, but it wasn't. I don't know how many people were there. Maybe 8,000. Is that an arena? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I missed a couple of Taking Back Sunday's songs because I was in line to get beer. But luckily, at a show like that, they have monitors inside, so you can at least like see. You can hear it, but you can also see it too. But they played a good mix of old and new. They played, if you're into Tell All Your Friends, they played Cute Without the E, Timberwolves in New Jersey, You So Last Summer, Make Damn Sure, Flicker Fade, which is a more recent song, which is really good. Adam Lazzaro, he was like bantering in a good way, like good banter between songs, and it was good. Third Eye Blind, I've probably seen them a half dozen times. I think it was probably the best time I've seen them. And it's one of those things that, you know, you see a band at the end of the career or near the end, who knows how long they'll be playing, you get the full catalog. And Jenkins was feeling it. His voice was great. They did about 25 songs. The first few songs, maybe the first half dozen, were like a medley. He would sing the first verse into the chorus, and then they'd kind of transition, which, you know, if that's how I get all those songs, I'm good with it. And they played 25, so you got pretty much everything you wanted to hear. Played slow motion, the crowd fucking sang louder than Jenkins. It was awesome.
You were sending photos of that night because I was tweeting them out, and I was like, damn, this is awesome. I'm jealous of the fact that you get to see Third Eye Blind this summer, and with Taking Back Sunday, which, like, if you had told me in, like, I don't know, January that those two were going to tour together, I'd been like, that's a weird pairing. But at the same time, they've both been around for similar amounts of time. So yeah. At least in the music industry, maybe not Taking Back Sunday to the same level as Third Eye Blind, but not far off, right? I mean, 4 or 5 years difference. And I've been listening to them for both, you know, that amount of time, 20, 25 years, depending on the band. And to get to see both of them together at a place, you know, where you can gamble too, like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, win-win. And you mentioned the medley thing too, where I was like, I remember when you were texting us about the medley thing, and I was thinking, man, it's weird that bands do that. I was just thinking kind of candidly at the moment, like, it's weird bands do that. But now that you basically just changed my mind.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome.
Yeah, because it's
Nice.
like, oh, you at least get part of it, and that's better than not getting it at all. Because nothing sucks more than leaving a show and being like, man, great show, but I was hoping to hear this, and this, which is a big ask.
Yep.
So if you're getting part of it and you're getting 25 songs, I think that's actually, you're walking out pretty satisfied at that point.
No, I agree. And I mean, would it have been better if they played the whole thing? Yeah, but can Jenkins can he do 30 songs? Probably not. I don't think most vocalists in their 50s can.
That is a lot.
Yeah. And then just about Taking Back Sunday, a couple of years ago, they took out Saves the Day. So I think it's a good move. They take a legacy band, you know, Saves the Day has been around since the late 90s, but from a different scene. So you're going to get, although I don't think they need it. I think they played the House of Blues. Like,
yeah,
they probably didn't need to. It's like the whole diminishing returns thing. You know what I mean? Do you even need to take out? You can probably fill that room on your own.
But like
Mhm.
for this tour where they were playing bigger places and outdoor places, it makes complete sense. You're pulling in some legacy
Definitely.
fans of Taking Back Sunday and then yourself. And then like maybe people go to see Taking Back Sunday and then they're there and they're like, holy shit, I forgot how much I like Third Eye Blind. And then they're buying a t-shirt. So it makes sense.
Yeah. It is a good pairing.
Yeah, the dual headliner, you can't go wrong, because I've seen Third Eye Blind a ton. But when they bring on, like you said, Saves the Day, or I think the tour before the pandemic, they brought Jimmy Eat World with them, you know, you're like, I like both those bands.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that show.
Yeah,
That was a good show.
why would I skip this show? You know, I might as well get 2 for 1. So, and in terms of Jenkins getting older, I mean, losing a whole year, I mean, how much longer is he gonna be able to do the scream in that song? You know, so
He can still do it, man. I mean,
graduate.
yeah, it's been 3 years since I've seen them, but he can still do it.
impressive. Yeah.
Great, Bill. I'm jealous of that. All right, Nate, what do you got?
So this show was, I guess, properly the first show of summer 2022 for me. Was in Maine. I was hoping you guys would be able to get to this show too. Was randomly fucking in Sydney, Maine. Was Michael Franti and Spearhead. Me and my wife, big fans. Rob Riccatelli was on here. He was there, so I got to, you know, it was almost like this perfect rendezvous of like, I want to see a show in Maine when I'm back. I don't care where it is, so the fact that it's in the middle of nowhere, Maine, is fucking whatever. See a good friend and just be in basically a non-traditional venue. It's basically like a music school, and they have a stage set up for national acts. I think this is a new revelation as of this season. So Michael Franti being a national was a big deal for them to secure that talent, probably. And it was great, man. It was outside in the woods. You know, I had just gotten up from New York City, so I flew into New York and then went to Maine and basically went to the show directly. And it was like a welcome home, basically. Like, not only am I back in this great state of Maine, in the thick of it with, you know, the pine and the nature, with friends, but also a very inspirational artist, Michael Franti, and his message, which is, you know, positivity and unity. And with my son, again, like second show for him, so to bring him and have him experience this kind of part of my life that is very important, and with my wife and friends, and just be there to really just celebrate life, but also getting back together, because the whole pandemic just really shut these types of experiences down. So this was like a multi-dimensional celebration of life, and yeah, it was very special. There was an energy at that show, which there always is at a Franti show, but this one in particular for me, with my newborn, like, oh God, this is something I've been thinking about since, I don't know, since I was in high school. Like, I want to be in a situation like this, and it happened pretty organically. So, yeah.
I get 2 thoughts. One is, start that spreadsheet for him, man. Keep a log so he knows all the shows he's been to. That's the good stuff.
Trey? Totally.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, I scour the internet, if not daily, every other day for shows in Maine. I didn't come across that show. And then you, 3,000 miles away, sniffs it out in 2 seconds. So I don't know what the fuck happened. And I'm on Instagram. And granted, that's curated, so you're going to miss a lot of stuff. But Facebook, I search events. I'll go to the events tab. I'll type in Portland, whatever. I'm on Polestar. I'm on Bands in Town. You name it. I go on Ticketmaster. I couldn't sniff that show out at all. So I don't know how you found it, but
that one, yeah, no, and it's a good point, because I actually search all those mediums as well. And it's funny, it actually proves that if you're in an independent venue and you're not in the collective boys club of Live Nation or whatever it is, promotional element, you're kind of left in the dust, or you're being canceled out by
pay to play.
Pay to play or search engine optimization, whatever it is. So this one was basically, I saw his tour announcement and saw that Maine was on there, and I zoomed in and saw it was Sydney and not Portland. I was like, I don't even know where Sydney is, but, you know, check it out. If it wasn't for that, yeah, it wasn't promoted properly, and it was because it was basically a music school that happened to land a national talent. So they probably don't really, and I hate to say this, but as a music school, I guess didn't have the proper infrastructure to promote that show, because otherwise I would have known about it either.
But I mean, it sold well, and there were a lot of people there, and it was a good time, so it probably doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
They don't need me there.
Yeah. Well, no, if anything, it shows that, hey, you can throw a concert anywhere, and if you have the fan base or just the best thing in town going on that night, you can draw a crowd. But yeah, promotional, you know, the promotional element was definitely all in Michael Franti's camp. They probably sold all the tickets, yeah.
Yeah. And that just shows you if he is talk about cult following, and maybe that'll be a future episode, cult followings, big time cult following that his people would, if you're in the region, would come out for it. And that's one that people might have even come down from Canada for,
Oh, totally. Yep.
One, it was July, right? Or late June?
July 1st. Yeah. So it was like the start of summer, basically.
Summer in Maine. Can't beat it.
Yep. That's an area that you would not think of in Maine that would get shows. Like Bangor gets them, Portland gets them, Augusta sometimes, but it's never really, you're not thinking of off the beaten path like Sydney, which is, Waterville, just north of Augusta area. So I'm jealous. Like I wanted to go. I think I was in Kennebunk, which is a solid 2+ hours away until like 6 o'clock that night. So it was just not happening for me. But I mean, Rob being like, hey, Fronte's playing in Sydney, Maine. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not real. And obviously it was real. It turned into a pretty badass looking time. We posted about it on our socials too. So go back and check that out.
Nice. What do you got, Tone?
I saw 4 shows in August. Tattoo the Earth, which we've covered. I'm not going to do that. But went with Street Team President P. Luck to see Atmosphere and Iration at Thompson's Point in early August.
Nice.
And then I've seen Iration there before. Who did they open for? They opened for 311 last summer. We all saw them, and they were awesome.
Yeah, they were.
They were awesome again this night, and then to get to see Atmosphere outside at Thompson's Point, which was kind of it was a weird spot to see Atmosphere, but I've seen Atmosphere, 15 times in 20 years. And to get to see them in another venue that I would never have thought to see. I saw them at the Space Gallery in 2005, maybe, or 2004. And that holds maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred people.
Yep.
To a place where in Portland they're playing a place that holds, 8,000. And I think there were probably half that there, Pretty wild for them to have come that far in a place that they're not from. Portland loves Atmosphere, and it's another one of those weird bills where like Iration's more like kind of reggae, folky, and then you get Atmosphere, who's underground hip hop, but like lives in that reggae folky world. They play Cali Roots every year, and it just fits for them to bring a band like that out with them. It was fun to see that kind of dichotomy on stage, and to know all the words to songs from 20 years ago is always fun, right? Like you love to go to shows like that, where you're an OG head, and that's exactly what I am with Atmosphere. So really cool to see those guys do their thing in Portland, Maine again, albeit in a different venue than I would have ever thought that I'd see them at.
Well, I think you got 3 things going on. I was just thinking about it. You got Atmosphere. I would say at this point, cult following.
Yeah.
Iration in that scene, very popular cult following probably at this point. And the other thing is that venue has cult following. There's like season ticket holders to Thompson's Point. They go to everything regardless of who comes. I think. Oh yeah. And even the State Theater too. It's that empire that Lauren's built over there. So I think you get all that in play. Although I would never have guessed 4,000 people. That's impressive. That's amazing.
Yeah, what's that place hold? 8? It was probably half full.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at the same time, like, anybody that was there, it was probably less. I was enjoying myself. I remember seeing all the people, but thinking to myself, I would love to have had this energy for Atmosphere in the State Theater, which he sold out before. Those guys have sold out before. So it was cool to see them spread their wings a little bit and go to a venue where it's going to be different. But the energy from, an Ant and Slug set in a small enclosed venue for hip hop is always, I think, for me, superior.
Yeah, something I've noticed out here in Southern California is, like you said, California Roots Festival. He's there almost every year in Atmosphere, him and Ant. But, working at venues out here and whatnot with a lot of reggae shows, because reggae is just so popular in Southern California. And I love it, but it's more popular than even I agree with. I'm like, oh God, it's that popular. It's like more popular than literally any other venue. I'm like, okay. And everyone knows Atmosphere. So for you and I, all 3 of us, the way you're talking about Atmosphere, we know it as underground hip hop, Slim Shady circa 1994. This is Backpack rap. This is not supposed to be no one's supposed to know about this. But everyone that likes reggae knows Atmosphere, at least out here. So I'm like, okay, so this somehow folded into that scene. And I don't know if there's definitely not, the message isn't the same. So I don't know where the crossover happened, but it definitely happened 8 or 9 years ago. And it's, the Atmosphere camp is riding, the Rhymesayers camp is riding that, at least for the Atmosphere, because they're on every bill internationally with
so many bills,
the reggae scene, and I just never saw that coming. I mean, Nas did something with
Damian Marley. Yeah.
Damian Marley. Other than that, there's never been a crossover where I saw that
Snoop
kind of
Lion. Come on, Snoop.
Snoop Lion. But what's Snoop not doing?
Yeah.
Snoop's
Wait,
like,
there's
right.
some money. There's some money over there in that corner. I'm going.
Yeah, it's like Kevin Hart. Like, what is the guy not representing?
NFTs. Yeah.
But it's just a very interesting phenomenon because I see people. I work at this venue and people see an Atmosphere poster behind me. I'm like, oh, fucking Atmosphere is the shit. I'm like, and it's always a reggae show. I'm like, you guys love that. That's great, but it just doesn't. I still don't know the correlation. So something happened, but clearly it's working. In their
Okay, so
benefit.
Nate, I'm gonna bring back maybe 15 years ago, us seeing them in Boston with A, Modest Yahoo, B, Slightly Stupid. So like it's been happening in front of our eyes without us even realizing it.
That's true.
That would be a case study to kind of dissect artists in one world that are like highly regarded or highly popular in another world. Like, I don't know, it's like Cannibal Corpse big with the comedian crowd because they were in Ace Ventura 25 years ago. Like weird stuff like that. Like there's got to be.
What's the password? New England clam chowder.
Is that the red or the white?
Oh, I can never remember that.
For anyone listening, this is literally how we come up with segments. It's amazing. It's fucking insane.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us, but yeah.
But yeah, like there's got to be. Well, I mean, this is a small example, but take Saves the Day, very much a pop punk band. They were very accepted by the hardcore scene back in the day, and you can look at old bills. They were on some heavy ass bills, and they just took a liking to them. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's always fun to like catch those mixed bills and figure out like why. I mean, we want to know the why. We've been talking about this for 2.5 years, like closer to 3 now. We want to know the why. How do those things happen?
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. Well, especially being from, like, I'm not straight up hippie, but I'm like, I like reggae, but I'm not like, I'm more into Atmosphere than I am reggae. So I'm like, what did I miss? Like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
How did this happen? Well, like I said, it was right underneath our noses the whole time. They used to be support for those bands, and now they're taking those bands out.
Yeah.
I love that shit. So I went to one show in August. No, because I went to Statue of the Earth and then Bon Iver, which we've covered. We did that recap. I'm going to go with one that was pretty recent. And Tone, you were there. We can tag team it. Obviously, give yours after this too. But Henry Rollins, spoken word at Aura. Yep. This was at this point about a week plus ago. 2 hours, 20 minutes. No intro to the crowd. Walks out, starts talking. No break, talks the whole time, doesn't even take a sip of water, and which is very reminiscent of when I saw him at the Space Gallery about 15 years ago. He went for 3 hours back then. No water, no breaks, kept going. He's 61 years old, so I get it. Reduce the time from 3 hours to 2 hours 20. The guy, one of the best storytellers ever still. The audience, he had him fully immersed the whole time, and if he rolls through, go see it. It's some current topical stuff he touches on. He obviously gets into his history, that whole story, and just kind of how life was like during the pandemic. It was awesome. Go check it out.
Yeah, first time for me ever seeing Rollins in any capacity, and I've heard him on podcasts. I've listened to music. I've never gotten to see him do his thing on stage, whether it be in spoken word form or with the band. But I was about 25 minutes late, Twan, because I was stuck at work, and you texted when he was going on, and I was like, fuck, I'm a half an hour out. I'm not sure I'm gonna catch much of this, not knowing that he'd talk for 2.5 hours. So I roll in at 8:25. My cousin's husband is there. He's working security. I talk for a minute. One of my coaches who I work with is working there. And he's like, this guy's awesome. I'm here as a fan tonight. I'm not here as working. Like, he was doing the same thing I was. He was just like, this is awesome. I want to hear Rollins. I've seen Rollins before. I want to see Rollins again. And I stood there for the first half an hour. And you're right. Like, I'm like, oh, I have to piss, but like, this dude ain't taking a break.
No, there's no break.
And then I ran into you, Twan, and your wife. And I ended up finding the seat right in front of you guys for the last probably half an hour. And yeah, he is super engaging. Awesome storyteller. And absolutely go see him if you have a chance, because there's nobody like him. There's just nobody like him.
It's crazy. I remember us, younger back in the day. He used to play the State Theater all the time.
And he signed the Enterprise when Enterprise Records was like 2 storefronts down. He signed the counter and the owner left it there for years. So whenever I used to go in, I would see it. So,
Oh wow,
Nice.
nerd
cool.
fact.
Yep.
God damn. Yeah, I've never seen him, but I remember those State Theater shows. Henry Rollins, spoken word. It was like every year I think he played the State Theater. It seemed like, at least.
In the early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in Hampton Beach, and it was always like a cheap show, like $20 or something. I'm probably gonna try to catch that show out here. I know I'm trying to, at least. But God damn, I'm so intrigued. Just based on what you guys have told me on here and in the text, like he's just a phenomenal human, beautiful mind, right? Like just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
So
Yeah, truly one of a kind. And I think I said this in the chat. Like, I love Black Flag. I love his era of Black Flag. I like most of the Rollins band stuff. Big fan there, but I'm even a bigger fan of him as an author. And the spoken word is right up there too. Like, he's just an interesting cat that's lived a very unique life. Like,
Yep.
he's so relatable in a lot of what he says, and then he says a lot of things I can't relate to, which has me probably even more engaged.
Totally. I second all of that. Yeah.
It's funny. Like, his storytelling is very funny. The word choice is brilliant. It's great. Go see it.
and he's a big vinyl head, right? Doesn't he have like the giant
Oh yeah.
vinyl collection? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He brought that up. He brought that up too. So yeah, if you get a chance to catch him on this tour, he might bring that up.
Nice.
If you do one thing coming out of this episode, do yourself a favor. Google Henry Rollins Ann Coulter. There's an Henry Rollins open letter to Ann Coulter. That's it was on the Henry Rollins show. It was like a little bit he did called An Open Letter to, fill in the blank. And the one on Ann Coulter is fucking awesome.
And that's as political as we'll get, right?
Yes. That's,
All right, Nate, what you got?
All right, so it's kind of similar to you. I'm going to run through just a few that I went through. So end of July, like literally the last day, July 31st, I made a promise to myself back in 2020. I think it was December. Whenever they announced Frusciante was coming back to the Chili Peppers, I told myself, no matter fucking what, I will see this band when Frusciante returns, because he's, at least for our generation, maybe the best guitarist of all time. Like, just masterful. I think we had Chad from Head PE on here, just like, we're just blown away. Like, this doesn't seem like a real human being. He just channels something outside of the norm. So I made a promise to myself to check him out. So I checked him out, or the band, that for that matter, at the SoFi Stadium in LA. Amazing show. But I was there for Frusciante. I'm going to admit it. I love the Chili Peppers, but I was there for him. Like, if they had rolled through without him, I had skipped their last 3 tours. But with him coming back into the fold, I checked it out, and it was great. And the SoFi Stadium is massive. So good and bad. The good, I got to see Frusciante. The bad is SoFi is so big that you feel like you're a mile away. So I saw that. But I really wanted to touch on a few more that I actually saw in August. So Tedeschi Trucks Band, which was at the Cal Coast Open Air Theater. So kind of like an open venue, outdoor venue again. Really cool. Great little jam band. Tedeschi, another virtuoso in the guitar world. But the one I wanted to highlight for this kind of like third part of summer was Jack White. Again, when I was in Maine for a second visit, I went back, saw you guys and hung out, and saw Jack White at the Cumberland County Civic Center in Portland. I guess it's called the Cross Insurance Arena now. And the reason I skipped those other two and like zeroed in on this one is because I remember being there, like almost like podcast mentality, watching this show and thinking in a third person, like I'm observing this show in such a different lens because of the podcast. And it's because that show in particular, Jack White's management, and probably his call, said, you can't use your phones. You're going to put your phones in a pouch, locked up, like a Dave Chappelle show, no recording. So usually I record shit no matter what. I don't know, it's just my new thing. And I used to be the guy that was like, dude, don't record it. You should enjoy the show. Now I'm like, no, I'm going to record it because I don't know if I'm going to be able to see shows because I have a fucking kid now.
Right.
Even though I bring the kid now. But regardless, I digress.
You never digress.
I never it's the first time I've ever said it in my life. Great show, great artist. There's something to be said about an artist and the said venue where they play and that correlation and how that works together. So this is a hockey arena. Jack White is a very dynamic instrumentalist / vocalist with pretty complex music composition. And as much as I love my home state and love Portland, Maine as a market, that venue did not correlate with that music at all, unfortunately. So the show suffered because of the venue drastically. And it's really sucks. It was a big revelation watching the show being like, this is so great. but I'm ready to walk out because it's terrible because of the environment that I'm in right now. And so great show, great. The new records, the last 2 records, he dropped 2 records this year. Amazing. But the venue and the atmosphere surrounding the show did not coincide. And so therefore there was a little bit of a downgrade in that regard. So great show. And I would recommend seeing him on this most recent run because he's, again, proving himself. But you have to, as a conscious decision as a fan, realize like, depending on what you're seeing as a band, you have to really dial in, where am I seeing this artist, and does that relate with said music? It's a really kind of interesting chess game because it's like, I just want to see the band.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a good point too, because like, especially if you are aware of the venue that you're going to see the band in or the artist in, and you know, like maybe their stage show is going to be something that you want to check at the right venue because it may not work at certain places. This is one of those places that probably doesn't pull off numerous things, whether it be seating, sound. It's just an old, built 60 years ago and needs to be updated type of building. And it was updated a few years back, but still not to the level that it would be for concerts. And it doesn't get what it should for concerts because of it. And as great as we love the Portland, Maine music scene, when we get what we want, it never has had that kind of big bang spot. And this was supposed to be it, and it never really has lived up to that bill. So even getting Jack White is kind of huge for that, to look at it from, again, 20,000 feet. But it's not a place that you would want to see what he probably could pull off.
So question for you, was the no phone policy, why was that? So I assume it was from Jack and his camp. Why? Because I have a follow-up to understand.
Great question. I didn't research enough to get an answer, even though I had that same question myself. But based on just his kind of mentality, like he has a vinyl plant, he's into the art form to the letter. I think his management were thinking, we don't want people to go in there, record the show, put it on YouTube, and spoil it for the rest of the people. We want people to go and enjoy the show in true form, kind of like vinyl, right? In its truest form, without any kind of precursor, like, hey, you're going to check out this show independently. Not only not upload it on YouTube, but you're fully present, kind of like listening to vinyl. Like you're there, you're not, there's no distractions, So it's actually kind of a cool decision in that sense. But, and we have kids and stuff, like it's, I'll make that decision, you don't have to make it for me. So there's a little bit of friction there. So yeah, so in other words, I don't have an answer for you.
Well, the reason I ask is and Tone, you were there, when we went to see Ryan Adams at the State Theater.
Yep.
He had a level of the State Theater that there was no seating and that you couldn't stand or sit at, which is eye level to him. And there's no flash photography because of seizures and epilepsy. I guess there's a history there.
Meniere's disease is what he has. Yep.
Oh, right on. Okay. So I get that. This is where this might surprise you guys. If someone has a no phone policy, you can go fuck yourself. I ain't going. I'm staying home.
Oh, wow.
I'm staying home.
I like it.
I've done it once, and it was a comedy show. Aziz Ansari rolled through. I just named off 2 people who've been canceled, by the way. Aziz.
Yeah.
But he was doing, test material in a small 3rd-tier market in Portland. And I think I just put my phone in my pocket and didn't do it. Like I didn't give him my phone. I'm like, no, absolutely not. And now that with kids, yeah, you could say, well, don't go to the show. If you have kids, maybe I want to go to the show. But if there's a no phone policy, I ain't going. Shove it up your ass. That's where I'm at.
I've only done it once, and it was Chappelle, as Nate mentioned, at Merrill Auditorium in Portland, Maine. And at the time, I was all about it. I was fine with it. But the more, comedy makes more sense to me. Music.
It does. Yep.
Comedy, you're trying not to get canceled for being in the moment and something happening, or somebody doing something stupid at your show and you dealing with them. So that I get. But at the same time, like music, yeah, I probably am like, why is this a no phone thing? Like, I can't take like a 30-second video that it doesn't do the show justice. Everybody knows it doesn't do the show justice compared to what you were, when you're in the building. The sound is never as good on your phone 3 days later, right? I mean, it just doesn't sound the same. But that being said, check us out at podioslave.com. But we don't need to be like told not to do that. Like we all know it's not going to be the same. So like a phone, who's recording the whole show and putting it on YouTube? Like why'd you pay for a ticket to do that? How much money are you going to make on YouTube doing that?
You can. You won't make the criteria. They won't.
They cut you down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess my whole thing is like, you want to be present. Well, for me personally, my optimal experience is it's almost like I have my phone there to be pop-up video. It's my own pop-up video. I can look at, okay, well, what album was this off? Or like, maybe I want to know the set lists, you know?
Yep.
For me, it enhances it. And if I'm paying the money, deal with it. And I can understand the artist saying, well, I'm performing, deal with it. It's like,
yeah,
well, I just won't go. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree with you to an extent. Like, obviously I dealt with it and put it in a bag, and it was strange. I think it's the first time I've ever done that. No, I did it. I did do it at Chappelle as well. But yeah, there was like, I didn't research why, and there was no disclosure at the building as to why. Like, this is to enhance the experience, or there's a lot of, I don't know, intellectual property that we don't want to be replicated, so we're no phones, whatever it is. Like, there was nothing. It was just basically like, oh, you're here, great, here's your bag. It's like, oh, it's kind of like you don't have a choice. You're yes or no, you know, very polarizing in that sense. But I think I actually agree with you. In fact, now I probably should have put my foot down a little bit more so, especially because I'm with you with like kind of the nerd aspect as to, oh, I think I know this song, let me look it up. In fact, you kind of get sidebar, but maybe that's part of the, no, you're not present, now you're not even looking at the stage, all that stuff. There's one exception. U2, Bono has some kind of issue with his eyes. There's actually a reason why he wears sunglasses at night.
It's probably the same issue that Ryan Adams had, Meniere's type of deal.
Yeah, I think it's similar, yeah. So like he has some sensitivity to flash, but they still don't ban phones, right? So
right. No, I've taken numerous photos and videos at U2 shows.
Yeah, so to your point, like, do you really have to tell people, sorry, it's this or that, is pretty intrusive, yeah.
All right, yeah, so I have a couple that I just want to kind of talk about. We'll do them briefly. I was the MC at Trawl's EP release party, which was badass. I don't think we got to talk about it because of all the Tied to the Air stuff, but got to introduce the bands at their EP release party at Portland House of Music in Portland, Maine. We are on Kaiju King, which is on the EP. Like, it's amazing. Everything about being, you know, friends with those guys has been really cool. Seth, Sean, Justin, and now Adam. Really cool. And Gary before him are really cool. And to be part of a big night for them with an EP that has, you know, been #1 at Bull Moose in all of August and most of September. Really cool. Like, exciting stuff. And I'm not the guy that likes to stand on stage and be in front of the microphone with nobody else behind me and trying to explain stuff to people. But like, I did it and told everybody, hey, we have Anthrax coming Monday. You guys want to check out our podcast? That was kind of fun. But
oh, nice.
Those guys were cool and love to the Trawl boys.
Because we haven't talked about that night really, Tone.
No, we haven't.
Like us, just even in the text, like.
Nope.
So what did you say? I'm curious. Like, what'd you?
So I was super nervous the first band. I'm not going to lie. I got up there and just like waiting for the PA, the music. The guy couldn't get the music to work. And then that just led to my anxiety about being up there because I'm waiting for him to be like, yeah, you're good. Because everything kept getting fucked up. Finally, he gives me the okay. I go out there. I'm like, hey, here's the first band. I'm Tony from Podioslave, blah, blah, and get off. And then Sean's like, hey, man, have a little more fun with that. He's like, pimp the podcast, do your thing. And I was like, because Sean's a showman. Anybody who's listened to our interviews with Sean or seen Trawl know that he loves to, like, he's got a guy with some energy, you know?
Yeah, but good on you for not stealing the stage though, you know?
It's not my place. I was just there to, but he was like, we want you here to do that. So I get up there for the second band, I think it's Twin Grizzly. And before I say anything, I just hear Sean in the back go, have my babies. And I loosen up a little bit, and I'm like, all right, thanks, Sean. Yeah, no, that's Sean from Trawl. He'll be up soon. Here's Twin Grizzly. Like, they're the dad bodiest band in Portland, and because they told me to say that, so I did. And then they come out, and they were awesome. And then I introduce, as I'm getting ready to introduce Trawl, Seth's to my left, Justin's to my right. Seth's the bassist, Justin's the guitarist, and they start breaking into like a Tool song. And I just go, I wish I could fucking be Maynard right now, but I can't. Next up is Trawl. These guys are fucking awesome. We love them. You love them. And boom, Sean came out and they did Kaiju King, and it was badass. So really cool to be part of something like that, even though it's not something that I would typically ever have thought to say yes to. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could have made it. That's awesome. It is awesome.
And industry tone.
The fun part was going backstage at P Home and seeing all the flyers for all the shows that have been there and being like, man, like all those bands hung out right here where I'm standing right now. And some big names, like just shit that you'd be like, holy shit, like small room, those bands came through here 7 years ago, whatever. And yeah, being part of that was pretty badass. And then went down and saw Spose at Wally's in Hampton Beach. He used one of our videos on his TikTok, which was fun because I took a bunch of videos and he was like, send me those. So I did. We talked about him earlier in the episode, but that was pretty badass. And then Twan, we saw Sevendust the other night too, a couple nights before Rollins. So getting to see Lejeune and the Non-Point Boys too open for them and do their thing and just kind of rip up the Aura stage in Portland, Maine. That was pretty badass too.
You want to know something cool? And you probably know you just did this. You just listed 3 former guests.
I did.
Charles, Spose, and Sevendust.
Yep.
Hey, maybe Rollins is next.
I'm in for Rollins.
I mean,
he
that
can talk
dude
the whole
would
time.
fucking talk us in circles.
He can talk the whole fucking time. I will intro him, or you will intro him, and he can go.
It's a multi-bucket list item because not only would we get Rollins, we'd actually get that 3-4 hour marathon episode I've been dying.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, those were my kind of late August, early September shows, and yeah, I had to miss the War on Drugs, which I was pretty bummed about. They played State Theater in Portland, Maine, and I had to eat that ticket, but a friend of mine got to use it, so that worked out. But yeah, man, really fun to. We had a really pretty badass summer as far as what the pod got to see as fans, and not just even talk about.
Yep. And also see it through a different lens with the podcast, right? Like, okay, like we know a lot of these, like you said, alum, and it's just hard to deny. We watch these shows now through a completely different spectrum. Like, we know kind of more than we've ever known, right? This podcast has been a big investigative series of, so what's actually going on, right? And now we have that insight, and everyone, hopefully that's listening, can agree that there's more to it than meets the eye, and it's pretty fascinating. The music industry is so complicated, and there's so many moving parts. And we never thought live music would even come back. We were fucking reminiscing during the pandemic, like, yeah, dude, live shows are a thing of the past. Kind of sucks, and now we're talking about all the shows we've seen. So it's pretty awesome.
And we've said this before. We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Like we've hit pockets we didn't, 1, know existed, 2, didn't even think to go to. Either a situation's presented itself, or we kind of thought outside the box. So the reason I bring that up is there's so much more to uncover. There's so many stones to uncover, and we're gonna keep doing it. We're here. We're back. We're here
Till next week, baby. Right?
Yep. Yep. This is behind the music, fucking on steroids.
Sort of. I mean, just it was just us talking about going to shows, but yeah.
No, I'm saying the podcast, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
less production, no fucking financial backing. Yeah. So
yeah, we're indie. Hey, hit us up. Hit up the link at the bottom and fucking subscribe. Give us a couple of dollars so we can keep the fucking lights on.
And Jack White's no phone policy won't get in my way of my pop-up video live experience.
Yeah.
All right, till next week, right? Peace, podheads.
Peace. Cheers.
See ya. Mic drop.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.